There is the unquestionable king of philosophers, Plato, and his legacy and his rule, his power, his intellectual magnitude is a kind of unprecedented, and nobody could compare with him.
Aristocles, son of Ariston, known as Plato, was born in Athens in the year following the death of the great Athenian statesman Pericles. Athens was a city-state at the time, but this does not mean it was a huge city. Most likely, all the inhabitants knew each other, and there were slaves who did all the hard work in society. Therefore, Plato's philosophy was aimed at the educated elite. Plato lived during a period of turmoil in Athens, where there were constant conflicts between Athens and Sparta, which ended with Sparta's victory and the imposition of a government on Athens that was similar to Zelensky's government in Ukraine, meaning a puppet government. This means that it had nominal sovereignty, but was actually controlled by a foreign state. Plato, in his youth, was passionate about poetry, music, mathematics, and rhetoric. He was also a professional wrestler, earning the nickname Plato, which means broad-shouldered and wide forehead. He was uncertain about the path of his life, wavering between poetry and politics until he met Socrates. This meeting not only affected Plato's life, but also the entire course of philosophy. He burned his poetry and began to pursue Socratic philosophy. Socrates taught many young people in Athens and encouraged them to think for themselves, which made him a symbol of rebellion. This angered the government, and he was sentenced to death on charges of corrupting the minds of young people, as they saw him as speaking against the gods. After Socrates' execution, Plato traveled on several journeys across the Mediterranean and studied philosophy under Pythagoras. He also went on a trip to Syracuse in Sicily at the invitation of his friend and disciple Dion to apply his ideas regarding the virtuous republic. During Governor Dionysius' attendance at a lecture by Plato, Dionysius became upset, so Dion quickly sent Plato to Athens, fearing the king's anger. However, during his return journey, Plato was kidnapped and sold into slavery. Fortunately, a friend recognized him and paid for his release. After returning to his hometown Athens, Plato decided to establish his school, which he named the Academy, as it was situated on a sacred area of land granted to the hero Academus for saving Athens. He called his students academicians. Plato delivered lectures to his students at the Academy on mathematics, astronomy, law, music, philosophy, and especially his own theory of ideas, as well as ethics and political philosophy. The students followed a uniform system in terms of dress and hairstyle, and adhered to table manners. The philosopher Aristotle was considered the most prominent student of the Academy, and he placed a sign on the door of the Academy saying, "Let no one enter who is not a geometer," considering mathematics as the key to all understanding, as it shows us the system that governs the universe. The Academy did not receive money in exchange for teaching students, but instead received financial donations from the wealthy, which allowed the philosophers to be financially independent. The Academy continued for about 9 centuries after Plato until it was closed by the Christian Emperor Justinian, and its philosophers fled to Persia, where they were welcomed by King Khosrow. After the death of King Dionysius I and the assumption of his young son Dionysius II to power, Dion of Syracuse managed to convince the young king to invite Plato so that he could help him become a wise ruler, but the experiment failed as the king accused Dion of attempting a coup against him and exiled him and put Plato under forced residence. After a while, Plato was able to persuade the king to let him go back to Athens for about 4 years. After that, he returned to Sicily again, but this time he ended up in prison again and only escaped with the help of his friends. Syracuse has been transformed into a state of chaos after Dion invaded it, so Plato withdrew from politics for the rest of his life, spending his remaining years peacefully in the academy. Plato's family was one of the wealthiest in Athens. He had 3 brothers and 1 sister. His father died when he was young, so his mother married her uncle. Plato never had children because he never married. Plato died of natural causes at the age of 80, on the same day he was born, and was buried in the academy. However, his tomb has never been found to this day.